You got too many cooks living in the kitchen. You don't know what you've been missing.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to At the Kitchen Table with Soraida and friends. My two friends today are Celeste and Elizabeth. Let's start with you, Elizabeth. Can you just give everyone that's listening or watching just a rundown on who you are and what's on your mind?
Oh, good morning. So my name's Elizabeth Infante, and I do a handful of things in the community. I do commercial real estate. I sit on several boards. Besides real estate, I also work as relief at the Juvenile Detention Center on when I can, either Thursday or Friday of the week. I try to focus a lot on the juveniles and giving back to our community.
Love that. And you, Miss Celeste?
Hi. So I am right now kind of in the same boat doing a lot of things. So I'm the program director for Victory Academy, which is a great program. We're trying to expand right now. We're offering a lot of support for students, homeschool community, kids that just need extra fire under their feet, I guess, some rigorous classes and things. And then I'm on the board for the Keizer Homegrown Theater, which we're going to be at the art fair this weekend. Really excited about that. And always looking for more volunteers. And then helping out just in our community, trying to stay active on all the crazy stuff happening.
Yeah. What I think is, how many kids do you have?
12.
Tell me the age difference.
So my oldest is 26. She'll be 27 in September. I don't know if she wants me to say that.
Too late.
And we have a little guy that's 4 months.
I think that is truly amazing because you can see how raising your first child to the littlest, how different that looks.
Yes, all the decades.
In that age difference.
All the car seat drama that's happened over the last almost 30 years. It's ridiculous in some ways, but.
I love that. How many kids do you have, Elizabeth?
I have 4 kids ranging from 26, 17, 15, 12, and a grandson that is 4.
Yeah, love that.
5 dogs and 2 cats.
Holy moly, that's a lot of pet food.
I know, right?
Yes.
When I was thinking about having you two on, I think that you both have such different perspectives. And this morning I was thinking, with your husband, Ken, being when he was principal at the school downtown, and with you, how you've been dealing with downtown. What do you think with downtown Salem? What is going well down there? And what do you see in the last 6 or 12 months?
So to put it nicely, there's just a lot going on downtown. And I see it from 2 different perspectives. I see it from a person who lives in the community, and then I also see it as a broker who's really vested in bringing new businesses downtown. So what I see right now is there's a lot of homeless. There's a lot of mental illness. There's a lot of juveniles. Right. So I see it from different sections, but I'm going to take myself out of the equation of being a business person to a person in the community. I recently had a friend who passed away back in December, and so really hit the ground running. We thought she was missing for a couple weeks, and we had a large search crew going out there from South Salem to West Salem, downtown, and really had a chance to talk to people who are in the community that are on the streets, that are at Arches, that are living in front of our Rite Aid, that are living outside of our malls, right? And we got a different perspective than what people see on the news and people assume, right? So it's hard to answer that question without being brutally honest, and it may not be something people want to hear. But the good thing going on downtown is we have wonderful ownership now. It's all local ownership who are all vested in changing downtown. They're doing anything they can, and they're not doing it to fill their pockets either. They're doing it with every intention of listening to what our community wants. What do they need? What can we do to entertain people in the community? How do we build a safe space? Right? That's what I see that's going positive down there. And they're doing everything they can to bark up any tree who's willing to listen and say, hey, we have a problem down here, and how do we fix this?
I love that. And I think you nailed something, because it's important to me that good conversations happen here at the kitchen table, is that we're having healthy conflict, if that's it, or crucial conversations. And I think it's weighed on me a lot in the last 6 months when we just hear one side of a story. I want people to know we can have difference of opinions. Like we're all just humans trying to make our way in this world.
And that's what I admire about you, Soraida. That's what I really admire, that you're really like, hey, I respect your opinion. I respect your view. I may not agree, but I respect it, right? Because I may see something through a different lens that maybe you don't see, right? Mm-hmm. And I look at things from a different lens also, because in my prior life to being in commercial real estate, I've worked in the criminal justice field since the ripe age of 17, working in the jail. I've worked at the circuit court. I've worked in the district attorney's office in the criminal investigations unit. So I've seen a lot of different sides. And I've seen how the cookies are made in the back, right? How the sausage is made. So when people have different perceptions of this is that way, this is this way, no, that's not how it is. And I'm willing to call that bluff. And I can say it's not true. Also, I've had a daughter who's been homeless on the streets, right? I've been that mom out looking for her at different places, from Wallace Marine Park to under bridges, and saying, this is a mom who's afraid and scared. If you see her, I'm right behind her.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what, do you even go to downtown Salem, Celeste?
I know. It's not often. No. I mean, we drive through probably. Yeah, my daughter recently went to Portland and had to borrow our car, and we have just a little Honda. And I was like, that's the car that doesn't lock. So take a different car. But I think, one of the concerns, I guess, is just you used to be able to almost just leave your car unlocked. I mean, probably shouldn't ever, right? But the trust, you want to be able to build that trust as a community. And obviously, I'm from Keizer. I think we almost still feel like we can, drive somewhere and jump out of the car and go do something, and maybe just, you wouldn't keep the keys in there, but you know what I mean? You're not feeling as much, I guess, like someone could run off with my car, but yeah, I wouldn't do that downtown for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just really, again, I'm just going to say it one more time. There's so many good people in our community, and we can't change things overnight, like people without housing. But I feel like having good conversations and knowing that whatever views you have, that we really want we have the same goals. I mean, we're moms and we're grandmas, and we want to leave this place a better place.
Absolutely.
Like this world a better place.
Most important thing.
And you ladies do it, and we all do it in our different ways. You do it with the juveniles. I mean, my love language is the kiddos. And
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and to keep those kids from not getting there.
Right.
Yeah. So some of the kids, so the cool thing is that I do work at the mall. I do a lot of work down there, and I see some of my kids from the juvenile department. I'm like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. Right. But I know the kid's background, and I know, hey, this kid doesn't have anywhere else to go. Mm-hmm. Right. Or I know this kid is struggling with mental illness. I know this kid's bullied into this position. So working with the juveniles, I've got to see the different backgrounds they come from. And so they aren't just troubled youth out there who are causing havoc. Sometimes they have no other choice.
Well, and I think that's something that my husband and I have talked a lot about, having worked obviously for years with kids from different backgrounds, different environments. How does when we have schools in Oregon that are failing, how does education play into that? Because I think of even people like Ben Carson. He's a big inspiration. I love listening to him. He's just such a incredible person who's achieved so much, came from so little to achieve so much. And, if our education system has failing numbers over and over and over, are we even equipping them to get into the next stage in life where they don't feel like their only option is to go down a lot of the same bad paths? We were just talking this week about a student that we had talked with who had been horribly abused, sexually abused by a step sibling, like just horrible things in his life. And when you go into adulthood with that baggage, you have a choice. Do I hold on to this victimhood and let it destroy my future? Or do I try to go out there and make a difference for someone else? And I think we're so quick to almost enable some of the dysfunction rather than really finding ways to push kids. And I don't have a perfect solution to what that looks like, but it's just something that I love seeing things in our community that are trying to do that, that are trying to reach the kids where they're at and show them you do have, a future and an opportunity. And one of the things that Ben Carson said in one of the interviews that I listened to was that he was always the dumb kid, never had an answer to anything. And his mom said, "You're going to start reading books." And one day the teacher asked a question and he knew the answer. And he's like, "I've never raised my hand before." And, even the teacher's like, what is this answer?
You need to go to the restroom?
Exactly. And he knew the answer. And he said from that day on, he said, I could sit here and be this stupid kid, or I could read and learn things, and I could further myself. Mm-hmm. And I just think, where are those light bulbs? Like, are we tapping into, and there are some really great community things that are trying to reach kids where they're at. Do you want to work hands-on? Do you, what is your future? I think for a long time we said, are you going to go to college and be successful? Mm-hmm. Well, what does success look like? There's so many different lines to success. It doesn't necessarily have to start or stop there.
I'm glad you said that. I've worked with kids who are 15 and can't even read if their deodorant is deodorant or their toothpaste is toothpaste. They don't know. They cannot read it. So for them, it's easier to follow a crowd that's going to accept them and not ask them to read.
Right.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the times I ask kids, how do you cope? What is your coping skill? What do you do when you feel this way? Right? What do you do when you feel that way? If you feel you don't fit in, what do you do? Coping is the biggest thing when I talk to the youth, even in the facility, hey, you're upset, you're mad. What's really going on? Mm-hmm. Why are you reacting like this? And I know that because I used to be one of those kids on the street doing things and being frustrated and just wanting to do what I wanted to do. But that was my own fault. My parents were great. But some of these kids don't have that. They cope in a different way. And you see that they follow because they don't feel accepted. So they go where they are accepted.
Right.
And I think a lot of the time we in the community and we as adults push that on kids. You have to do this to be accepted. You have to be this to be a good kid. You're not, it's okay to be broken. We're all broken. And it's okay to tell kids that. Like,
scars are cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scars are cool.
Right. And that's how you help them grow into someone that is going to be successful, that is going to relate with others in the community, that's going to grow with sympathy and empathy. Right.
Speaking of coping, how do you ladies cope when you feel flip your head, like you're like, oh my gosh, what is your coping? Like, do you take a deep breath for 10? Like, you just like time out, like when you just like have had it?
I revert to Run DMC and I say a lot of bad words in my car, right? Because I'm more of this is actually raw. This is what's going on. And it's not true. So I do a lot of cussing in my car and frustration and, just because it's like, God, do people not understand the reality and the truth out there? And I've always had that that wasn't your question, but if you're going to talk about it, be about it. Get out there and really see what it's about. Put your work boots on. Put your work boots on. Be willing to get dirty and get out there. Right.
My daughter has a quote in her kitchen that was from a song that I used to play for them when they were kids. And she like pulled this one part out that says, keep doing your best, pray that it's blessed, and Jesus takes care of the rest. And I was like, I like that. We're just going to do our best.
Well, yeah. And I think that have learning moments when people say, whatever, whether it's at work and I messed up. No, you didn't mess up. Like, I don't know how to do that. And yet, you don't know how to do that yet.
Right.
And when I can walk on water, I'll expect other people to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
One of the beautiful things I think that is kind of underseen with some of the homeschool parents that I work with is they're trying to do something. A lot of these parents kind of pulled their kids through the COVID stuff. There was just a lot going on. They said, let's try this. And they have no idea what they're doing. They're just kind of in it. And living life, watching life be played out is one of the beautiful things that I think a lot of parents have sort of not appreciated as much. Like we think we drop our kids off at school in the morning and we're listening to music on the way, and then we pick them up and we're cheerful and we're going to go have a snack. And life isn't that way. You can wake up and, someone ran over your dog. We had that happen one morning. How do you grieve that? Having kids be allowed to watch adults have an argument, figure out what to do with their stress, how to manage, trauma that happens, and having them with you. It seems like, oh, but I'm not protecting them from that. But are we really helping them learn resilience without that? If they're completely bubbled in? And I think that's one of the kind of the weird benefits that's sort of unexpected from living life with your kids around. Because a lot of people ask me that, like, well, how in the world do you get everything that, well, it's not going to look like a classroom. It's not going to be traditional or typical.
I'm not putting shoes on Ken when he walks through the door.
Right.
And have his martini.
Right. But there is such an aspect that I think kids have lost seeing. How do I become a resilient person? And there's a lot of stress in the classrooms. A lot of the kids that I've tutored, like you were saying, they miss a benchmark. They're not learning something, a basic skill. And they just get lost in the system. And they'll never catch up unless they're pulled out for some kind of interventions. And at that point, the stress, there's like two parts of our brain where like the front, we don't really remember things. We kind of remember it for a moment. And the back where we hold on to those facts. And in kids, if there's trauma, which school can feel like trauma to a lot of kids, that environment, the judgment, of just, am I good enough? Am I going to be able to remember this? Do my clothes look cool enough that I can even be here and be accepted? That trauma can actually keep them from remembering, basic facts that then they get into higher learning. They're not stupid. They just never grasp to those basic things like reading or, basic math skills that are essential. So I think when we look at our failing schools, like what are we doing we say that we're trying to help them by giving them all of these enabling techniques, but are we really just equipping them with the basics? Because a lot of the coping mechanisms are something they need to see real life. It's not something we can necessarily teach in a bubble. Yeah. Going to the glitter room or something like that. This
there's a glitter room.
It sounds fun.
I want to go back to school.
I want to go.
I want to go back.
But is it really giving us the skill to be able to then? What is the purpose behind someone who chooses to be homeless or didn't choose that but is thrust into that? A lot of times it's that feeling of I don't know what else to do, or drug involvement, those kind of things, obviously. But I had an aunt that suffered from mental illness, and it was a big part of my growing up, just living through the different aspects of seeing her when she was not doing well, and then kind of recovering enough to sort of seem independent, and then going back into that lifestyle, and the stress that it puts on the family. Again, I know you take that and then you throw them into a classroom and you say, go learn. It's how do they even, get to the point where they can separate the trauma from, being able to learn those things. So I think giving them an environment where they feel like they can grasp those things could be extremely beneficial.
And I want to circle back. Your question at the very beginning, Soraida, was about, downtown, what we're experiencing. So I want to wrap this all together. And this is kind of why, like, what I do daily, I try to wrap together. So the kids will eventually be the adults who are on these streets. So I think there's two components to it. You got to teach the kids coping. You got to, and even as adults, I think we have self-doubt sometimes, right? And
Absolutely.
sometimes get that imposter syndrome. And so we got to teach them, even though you feel doubtful at times, it's not okay to revert to the easy. Everything that's hard, everything that's worth it in life is hard work, right? Mm-hmm. Because then as adults, if they don't learn that as a juvenile, then when they become an adult, they want everything that's easy, right? Mm-hmm. So, and not to say it's everybody's case, but if we aren't teaching that at the very beginning,
it's just
the juveniles, then you're gonna be a 30-year-old adult who is like, poor me, this sucks, right? Mm-hmm. My life, just wasn't great. So herefore, this is where I'm at. And I speak from experience because I've been that kid on that street. And not to say everybody can do it. It's hard. And there's days that I'm like, oh my gosh, do I even want to be still doing this? Right. Mm-hmm. But you got to get it by the bootstraps and keep going. And we got to teach people on the street that that's the same thing we got to do. So when I see people out there, I see them, okay, what's the situation? Is it something that you're choosing? Because addiction is real. It's right. Real. And you either ask for help, right? And sometimes you can't. You're just so stuck on that drug, right? But you imagine that from the kids, right? When they're at a young age and they're like, I can't do this. I'm going to do what's easy. I don't want to cope with what's really going on inside. So that's really like, I try to focus a lot on our kids so that hopefully maybe we can't fix everybody, but maybe we can start streamlining the ones that are going to end up out there, that are turning 18, that are turning 19, that were in juvenile. Mm-hmm. So it kind of wraps together to what we see downtown. You see the ones that are like, yeah, we're going to see you here in 2 years and 3 years.
Well, don't you think as a parent too, we see in our kids where they sort of revert to wanting us to sort of spoon feed everything. I mean, I think it's a natural desire to want things to be easy. And that's what I say is like, are we giving them the skills to cope? Mm-hmm. And how do we do that? I don't know that. I feel like the schools are trying to do that in a lot of ways. And yet, are they really equipped for that? Or is there something bigger? And so I think our culture itself sort of says, dumb yourself down with entertainment. It will be easier. It will be better. And you can just kind of, slide through this moment and then somebody's going to give you what you need at the end. And in reality, that's not how it works. There's a lot of stress that comes into adulting, and we are trying always to prepare our kids for that. But if all we're doing is, again, kind of focusing on just our bubble, those what's happening outside of us in our community should matter to us, and we should be wanting to invest there.
Yeah, and I think it's a yin and yang. Like we have to yes, we want empathy for them, but we also need to have accountability. And I think that's the yang. That's where we're off kilter. Like we forgot about the accountability factor. Like it's okay if something happens, it's okay, but we're going to have to take our licks.
I tell my kids, and they know it, if they do something wrong, I'm going to be the first one to hold them accountable, and I'm going to be the first one on the phone with the police. They better believe that, right? And they know that. I've done it to them before. We're like, hey, you did something, now you're going to be held accountable. Because I don't want to enable them to be adults and be like, okay, well, mom's going to be here to clean it up. Or I'm not, giving excuses, because there's no excuse for behavior. Mm-hmm. Also, I'm glad you said that about, cope everything from when you're younger, right? What are we doing in the community? one thing that I tell my kids constantly, because there is stressors of life in school that we didn't necessarily used to see when we were younger, because there wasn't no Kardashians, right? Or keeping up with, the Hiltons. So now that everybody wants to be this certain person. And I think a lot of kids in the community or in schools kind of are like, well, I'm in that clique or I'm not in that clique. So I always tell my kids it's going to happen regardless. As you get older, there's going to be the cliques that at work, right? Or in the community that you see people are like, hey, look at me. We're all friends. You're not in, right? It's okay to be different, and it's okay to stand on your own, and it's okay to be who you are. You don't have to go with the flow.
100%. Like we were all made to be different. And how boring would that be if we all liked the same team for sports and that? No, we're so individually, beautifully made. And again, I just see it a lot on social media or different podcasts where we're just demonizing people with different views or maybe that look different. And that we really need to get back to crucial conversations. Like,
that's a really hard thing that I think is happening in our culture right now, though, is with social media and with being able to model themselves after whoever they see every day. There is, I feel like, a push to almost like accept that your kid wants to look just like this person. And you're like, but when did they stop wanting to be who they are? We aren't, as a culture, it's just a bizarre switch where I think there used to be sort of this push to you be you and be the person that you were created to be. And we say that while trying way too hard to be someone that we're not. And
100%. And I mean, I think that, I probably do it now that you said that, when you're like, I need to have that makeup or I need to have that lipstick, but not even really realizing it because you're seeing it over and
I like
over
that
again.
pink on you, by the way.
Thank you. But I mean, it's hard when it's all around you. And I can't even imagine being a teenager and going through that. Like, that's rough and that's tough. So people that are listening or watching, take it easy on the younger generation.
That's right. I remember my cousin was this, she like almost won. She was like first runner up to like the Miss Washington pageant or something back in the day. And I remember after she was done pageanting, she like cut her hair super short and it was like the style. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. And I was like 12 or 13. I went and chopped my hair off. And I just remember looking in the mirror and going, it doesn't look the way it did on her, when you try to try too hard to emulate someone else and it just does not work out. But, you're allowed to grow into yourself and say, well, okay, maybe that haircut wasn't for me, Yeah. But I almost feel like right now there's a pressure. We're telling kids, be who you are, but yet the pressure is just to follow along with some other thing. You need to, fit into this where it used to be sort of the anomaly. Now everybody wants to be the anomaly. And so they have to do something else that's even drastic. Crazier.
100%.
To be more so. And I just want to like rein it back in. Like, kids, it's okay. Just give yourself time. You'll grow out of the awkwardness, the bad haircuts. Right. It all goes away.
When you don't know how to put your hair up and you got some wonky pink hairspray.
I mean, I probably still do.
That tween, like, that's tough.
It's okay. It's okay to be that.
It really is.
Yeah. So I remember wearing so much hairspray in my hair when I was like 13, 14 that I think I could have survived a thunderstorm and my hair would have still stayed straight
not
up.
Lightning.
No, lightning. I would have caught on fire. I'd been running towards the thunder.
Yep.
Right. But I'm grateful that you're starting this, Soraida. It's great. I've always told people, Soraida, I've always found you to be someone who you are in every location, even when she's on the phone or texting or in public, you are who you are. And I admire that. Right. That's great. I strive to be that person. I mean, I always lay my skeletons out on the table before anybody can pull them out. I just think like, be who you are.
100%.
100%. You may not like my opinion, but it's, what I feel, but I respect your opinion. I respect everybody's opinion.
Right. And they're coming from a different way. I mean,
yeah,
it can be tough to have a different opinion. You know, I'm very much so on council, and you both know that I'm like, no fees, 100% no fees. That's grandma's lotteria money. That's whoever, done. Like, unless it goes to a vote, you can just count me as a hard no. Like, because I know when things get tough, or you both know food prices go up. I don't get to knock on my boss's door and say, I need additional salary. Like, no. I figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out. So.
And then when you say be who you are, I think now we have more than anything, and even as adults, be who you are no matter the time and period in your life, right? Because people are watching and people will notice.
Yeah.
Right.
But sometimes it is a journey, right? Like sometimes we're on a process. I think back to a lot of the views that I thought were really important even 20 years ago.
100%.
And how the pressure of society's changing, or discussions like this that I've had with people have shifted even my own views, or solidified some, you know, or completely changed others.
Right.
And I'm able to use a lot of those in these discussions with the kids that I interact with, or even my own kids, and just say, well, this is what I used to think, and this is what changed my mind. You know, and I think when we talk about diversity, that's another one of those like sticky words that's come to mean like one thing. We've boxed it in. And really, we're just at this table, we're so diverse, like just our backgrounds, our perspective. We might have all grown up a block away from each other, but there's so many factors that contribute to diversity. And we've changed the meaning to just having like one criteria, instead of going back to, there's so many factors.
Now, I really think it's diversity of thoughts. It's diversity of opinion. That's what diversity is to me. Because 100, it got pigeonholed in a cup, and that's not what it is.
Right.
100%. And it's kind of like going back to basics.
And then what we're doing is then we're taking kids and telling them, well, you fit into this category. And I just think that that's the first step that we need to
and it's almost the first step of like putting that person in a silo.
Right.
Like the first time someone called me, or I think I heard Governor Kate Brown, like during COVID, she said the Latinx community. I said, what the heck is the Latinx community? So I like called my dad. I was like, have you heard that? He's like, no, they're in California. That must be an Oregon thing. I like, what is this? Like, and please just let me be like, or I've had somebody say, what are you? And I'm like, my name is Soraida. Like, what does that mean? Like, we almost like went so extreme. And then you see it playing out even in government. Like, we just need to learn how to level out. Right?
I'm Hispanic. My dad is from Mexico. My mom is from Texas. And when I heard this Latinx, I was like, what is this? My mom honestly had some choice Spanish words, right? To the effect of like, that's dumb. But a lot more, you know, when my little 5-foot Hispanic mother's going off about it, it's not that's dumb. But yeah, I've never heard of that before. And if people feel that Latinx is okay.
Yeah, like don't make up another name for me. Like I'm good. If you want to do it, that's fine. But again, instead of putting people in these little silos to where it's almost opposite teaming them,
right?
Then like let's just be together, be the humans we were.
Can we listen? Can we listen a little bit more?
Yes,
and maybe judge a little bit less.
And then Latinx, I didn't understand because in our Hispanic community, you have and there's division in Hispanics amongst themselves, right? So you have people that are from California, they're called Chicanos. You have Latinos that are like more Spaniard is what they call Latinos, right? I have family that's from Texas, Mexico. Those are Tejanos, right? You have Paisanos. There's a lot of different that we categorize from different parts of Mexico. But I've never heard the word Latinx.
Just saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I was just like, that's crazy. Whatever.
Right. I'm like, no, that does not work for me.
No. No.
Absolutely.
And
not.
my dad is true Hispanic. I mean, he's been here for 50 years of his life. He was born in Monterrey, Mexico. And he's, if you were to say that to him, he'd probably look at you like, you know, my dog, Mr. T, does, like, huh? Right. But that's their,
it's people's choices, but don't name me. I'm not going to change your name. Like, just let people be who they are.
And is that helping? Is it helping?
And what are we
it's
helping?
creating division is what it's creating. It's creating division.
That's the thing. I think what I feel like we used to, I guess, at least my perspective growing up in Oregon, I felt like there was kind of a live and let live kind of and you know, maybe some of that is good that we have had to, you know, think a little harder.
100%.
But really, if I agreed with you on one issue and disagreed with you on another, I kind of feel like we could do that. Like, we could have that discourse, and it wasn't going to be the end of the world. And I think that there's just become such a divisive sort of with this diversity idea that we're all diverse. We want to be diverse. That's a good thing.
Great.
But we can agree on some things and disagree on others, and it's still okay. And we need to teach our kids that, because I think that, you know, and maybe part of it is the social media influence. I can't say exactly what it is, but I do think that kids have really started to feel like, well, I can't be friends with the people over here. Well, then we are going to lose some of what that diversity looks like. And we want to continue to have that, but we don't want to say, well, it just means this. It means dividing us up by these categories. No, we want to bring everybody to the table.
And it goes into as become adults. My kids, my son is always like, well, they voted for this person. What do you think? I'm like, I don't care if I always say, I don't understand the red or the blue. I always revert to that, because I say, we're not sureños or norteños. We're people, right? I'm not either part of the bird. And that's what I tell my son. I don't have a wing or a leg in anything. And so I'm like, I don't care what they voted for, right? As long as they're good people and they're doing the right thing and they're getting up every morning and, you know, doing the best they can. I don't care who they voted for.
Like, and it's okay, right? It's okay. Take a deep breath. Like, it's okay, everyone. Like, it really just weighs on me, I think, more as a society, because we want a good life for our kids and our grandkids, that no one is the devil. I mean, maybe like 0.001. And I think that is just Satan doing work. Like, he sees good things and let's see how we can defy. Like, no, like, say something nice to someone.
But if someone is representing us, I mean, you're a representative of our community. If I have something I want to know or a disagreement, I feel like we need to hold those people accountable.
100%.
You know? And that's what they're 100%. Choosing to do. So if I disagree with the person who's now representing me, it's still, it's such an important thing to show kids how to advocate from a young age, so that they don't get into those and feel like, oh, well, that person's evil. Well, I mean, maybe one of their views is, but is the person?
And use your voice, and maybe even with elected officials or board members or whatnot. Like, if you don't, homeowners associations, if you don't particularly like what's going on, show up.
Yeah.
Go to the meeting
that's a hard
and use your
thing
voice.
Too. I think one of the conversations that I think a lot of us are trying to have, you know, parents are trying to have, is how do we pay the bills, you know, get kids to where they need to go, give them, every kid needs to have everything well-rounded, right? We need to give them all these opportunities, and then also have time for civil engagement. You know, that's a hard thing, but making it easier for people to be able to approach whatever level of, you know, elected official it is. I think being present in the community, I really appreciate just people being able to approach those. You know, I see more and more of these community forums, things like that, where we can approach and discuss our views with those personal formats.
And find out how they got there. If that's the elected official or the board member or whatnot, like, how did you get there, mom or aunt? And maybe take for a second, like, what's going well before we go into those conversations. What's going well, and then go there. And maybe it's a muscle. Maybe it's us starting, again, as moms and grandmas, like, teaching them, like, okay, you want a napkin, go ask for the napkin. Maybe don't run and get the napkin for them, you know, a
Right.
muscle to use your voice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I think about, our current elected officials is, and I'm going to bring this back to our downtown situation, as we have tried really hard to reach out to anybody willing to listen, is not a lot of people have become available for us down there. And I've said, this is not, and I think sometimes they look at us like, yeah, you just want to bring a big national so you get a great commission. No, that's not what it's about. Because I've been working in the system way before I've got this, I was a broker, but nobody listens and nobody's available.
And the difference between hearing someone and listening, right?
Yeah.
Are you hearing what they're saying?
And it's like, well, you know that you're going to run again, right? And all the people that you promised all these things to,
Are watching.
we're like crows. We remember your face for the next.
You're much
years,
prettier than a crow.
I always say that, like, we're going to remember. We're going to remember.
It is a challenge being able to clearly, explain even when there is an issue. I know, again, going back to the COVID years, which were traumatic. My husband was working in the public school system at the time and trying to testify on what he saw as benefiting the kids. And it just felt like there was an imbalance in the conversation where everything was kind of about like, well, how is this going to impact the educators? And my husband was going, I am an educator. And what are we doing about the kids? Like, there's a few of us and tons of them. How are we helping them? And it just felt like there was an imbalance in the conversation. And so I do think it's our job, though, to keep bringing those things up,
100%.
hold their feet to the fire, because now we're seeing the damage that happened to those kids. I mean, I have a COVID kid that had to graduate in the middle of all of this, lost pretty much her whole high school, and lost her. They'd already paid their deposit on their band trip, didn't get to do that, lost out on sports, didn't get to do that. She had all these ambitions and they were just taken from them. And I'm telling you, like, it's not an easy thing on the other side. I'm glad that we can help them through that, but so much damage happened. And so the few outliers that we're actually bringing up, what about the kids? They were just silenced into kind of this, well, that's not a popular opinion, so let's not talk about that, but let's talk about these things, because the unions had big voices and they had a platform and they were just more vocal. They were able to do that. And I don't know how we can bring more of the outlying voices, but I do feel like it should be something that every part of our, especially in Oregon, I'm always thinking, like you said, about like, what am I leaving behind for my grandkids? What am I, we have our kids, but how do I lay the foundation so that they can come into something? And if we can't, then what are we even doing?
Right.
That has to be the goal.
I can feel that sometimes when, there is uncomfortable conversations and I'm like, this is going to go over well, but just saying it because I don't want someone coming up behind me to have to deal with that problem. And I really feel like a internal moral obligation to that. Like if I don't do it, then am I going to be this great grandma that sees the same problem happening because I didn't use my voice?
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's great. Because I have my 4-year-old grandson, and now he's got a huge speech. Like, he can say everything. And I'm like, yeah, because he's watching the older kids, right? He's modeling everything that the other kids do. And so he's eventually going to do what they do, and he's going to walk the steps they took. And if we don't clear that path and help him, it's just going to be all over again. We're going to continue to repeat society over and over again.
Well, I think that we all at this table are disruptors, and it's okay to be a disruptor as long as, again, that we're being respectful, and it's okay to be different. So 3 questions for you. Okay. As we wrap this up, I definitely want to have you back. I mean, good conversations do happen at the kitchen table. I'm just saying, like, we could go on forever. Only thing I'm missing is a mimosa. Right. Maybe it should be moms with mimosas next.
Oh, that would be great.
Do it in the evening.
Right. In the evening, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to do a late night one. What is something that you're really excited about, like a product or something that's coming out in Salem? and what keeps you up at night?
I'm really excited for the hard work the owners are doing downtown, right? They're all really just passionate about things. And I'm excited to finally be able to work with people who have that passion and see beyond the dollars in their bank account. But they see that success is how many people they help, how many lives they affect. And that aligns with my morals. And that's what I'm excited about. We may not be able to bring huge nationals, but we're definitely working on bringing something that will bring the community together. What keeps me up at night is not being able to deliver, right? Sometimes you work really, really hard every day to overcome obstacles. And I feel that so many things get in the way. And that's what keeps me up. It's like, gosh, did I not do this? Did I not do that? What could I do better? Right? What can I do better tomorrow? What can I do differently tomorrow? Elizabeth, you should have shut your mouth back then, right? Like, that's what keeps me up at night. So becoming the better me the next day.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first question again?
What's something you're excited about? It could be like a product, something in Salem, something in Keizer. Like,
oh boy, something I'm excited about. I mean, a lot of things that every family has. I guess they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Things. We have a lot just personally happening right now.
It could be a new recipe.
There you go. I'm really excited to see that there are things like you starting this little podcast and just giving, I think all the time about like when you're sitting up there on the dais and there's some issue happening and you get like 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something to like say a blurb. And I feel like the message sort of gets lost and there are so many extra things that we don't see. So I think I'm excited that that there's a way for a voice to come out that we can, just like this, just have a casual conversation. We didn't even have a purpose. I think to sit down today, it was just like, let's talk. And I love that. I think that we need to have more of that. And I'm excited to see things like that happening. And something that keeps me up at night, definitely the state of where things are in our state, and in our community. There's so many aspects. And I think trying to, I like a rubric of like, what can I do or what needs to be done now? What can I wait on? And what are the things that really aren't my role? And kind of being able to look at, are there things I can tackle? Are there things that I maybe could do later, but can't right now? And are there things that I need to let someone else, take the helm on and support them? And that definitely is just sort of always rattling around in my brain every day. I think, as we're assessing like what happened today, what could I have done better? What could I have said? Or did I just need to maybe go underground for a minute and pull myself back up?
Yeah, I say what's going well. I was at a conference years ago and there was a book called What's Going Well. So that just kind of like centers it. So if I get coffee, I won't ask, how are you? Because that can go like down a rabbit hole. But if you ask people what's going well, they're like, oh, like it's almost a reset where I have to be like, okay, Soraida, that was a first world problem. Like, no, call the ambulance on that one. Not happening. But it's almost, like, okay, pump the brakes. Like, don't go down that road. And it's so easy to do. Well,
thank you for having me.
Oh,
happy to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I will definitely have you all again. And again, thank you for using your voice and giving us different perspectives. And I hope anyone that's watching or listening just start a healthy conflict, start a crucial conversation, and let's just teach our kiddos that it's okay to disagree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's not demonize anyone that doesn't maybe look like you or talk like you or have the same views as you.
Engage. I love that.
Yes.
I always tell my kids, I have 5 dogs. They're all different breeds, different colors, different sizes, from 4 pounds to 100 pounds. And they're all family now. They all love each other. and they all came together.
That's right.
So why can't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
exactly.
And reminding everyone, there's so many beautiful leaders and people in our community like you two. And we're just do whatever you can, ask questions, and take it one day at a time, right? What can we do today? Because I know that my story is going to end. I don't know when. So let's make the most of the time we have here.
And if today is just survival, that's okay too.
Absolutely. If today's a Lifetime movie day with a tub of ice cream,
There's those days.
Thank you, ladies, again. So thank you to you,
Thanks,
Elizabeth.
Soraida.
And thank you, Celeste.
Thank you, Soraida.
Yeah.
And we will have you back again. Thanks for everyone for watching At the Kitchen Table with Soraida and friends, because good conversations happen at the kitchen table. Thanks. Big shout out and a big thank you to Valor Mentoring that recorded the video and audio for this podcast, Changing Lives That Change Lives. And thank you to Remodeling by Classic Homes for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us at the kitchen table with Soraida and friends. Please follow us on social media. You can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.